All right, it's a Sunday night in the heart of Mumbai. The Marine Drive is bumping. The crowd, the Wankhede was bumping. Rishi Sunak in the crowd. The Ambanis in the crowd. All in attendance for one man, Abhishek Sharma. It was the Abhishek Sharma show for the fifth T20. India absolutely creamed England. It wasn't much of a fight. Wasn't much of a contest. What a game! And we're going to unpack all of it in today's show. You're watching the In Between Overs podcast. I'm Taran.
And I'm Ishan.
Man, what an innings. 12 sixes.
12. I'm seeing 13. I think
Oh,
even
15. Wow, I cut him short. I cut him short.
no. So I'm sure everyone lost track counting. It was what a match. More sixes and fours, and we have been trying to call a century this entire series, and I'm glad that we finally saw one on the last match. And what a century! And as you mentioned, stars in the crowd. I think I even saw Mr. Ambani get up to clap for Abhishek Sharma. And it's an incredible innings from him. And to your point, when you put up a score just shy of 250, it doesn't inspire confidence in the opposition at all. As expected, England, just didn't have enough firepower for even a competitive competition.
Yeah, it felt like England had one foot on the plane, which I don't understand because this is about to play another three ODIs.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
some of
yeah.
those players are not going to be there, but it seemed like England just kind of like didn't really have any clue of how to get Abhishek out. They didn't really try anything out of the box, out of the ordinary. Butler with the standard bowlers that he's been using. He didn't try Jacob Bethel. I don't know if he tried Liam Livingston. He probably did. Yeah, he did.
He
But
did, he
he
did.
could have tried Jacob Bethel. He could have tried someone else. Just given them a shot. Tried something different to break the flow that Abhishek was in. Like he was in a zone and the energy, he was feeding off the energy of the crowd for sure. England were feeding into his hitting zones. It was a hell of a knock still to hit it cleanly that many times, not just the sixes, but the boundaries. Even the shot that got him to his 100, it was right off the middle, defensive push, right off the middle, got his single, and it was a fantastic knock. And there were a lot of dignitaries in attendance being at the Wankhede, and he definitely showed up.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I did catch some of it live as well. I think what was great to witness was, when you see a player in what people may consider the quote unquote flow state. It seemed like Abhishek Sharma was in that state where everything was just hitting right off the bat. And I think India, especially in their T20 setup with Sanju Samson, Abhishek Sharma, Sky, Tilak Verma, these are four players that can get into that state early on in their innings. And once you're in that state where, just they're able to see the ball, they're able to pick up the length very quickly. It can be very destructive, and for the opposition, it's something that they do not wish for. And so, India having four of those players, you just really hope one of them is able to really dig in there for 6, 7, 8 balls, understand it, and then boom, try to replicate that perfect shot feeling. India has, I think, four players that are able to do that, and today Abhishek Sharma showed how destructive that could be once you're in that flow.
Yeah, I would say India's top seven is all capable of that, including Rinku Singh, which he's
Yeah,
done
fair enough.
multiple times before in the IPL, right? And that's to your point. That is essentially what India is banking on with their batting lineup and their approach to T20 is one of these top seven is going to click, and which also would
Exactly.
mean that there are going to be days where none of them do, which will happen. But that mentality is what allows innings like this to happen because this doesn't happen without that mentality, that approach from a standpoint of how to approach the T20 game as a batting unit. And so Abhishek Sharma, innings of a lifetime. I don't think we'll see a better innings from him for a long time. He's made a century before against, I think it was Zimbabwe. What it might have been his debut series or debut match. I can't remember. But nothing's going to top making 100 against an opposition like England in India. I know it's not his home ground, but it's in India all the same. And just phenomenal hitting. I wish I put some money on him today, but I didn't. But it's all good. It was good for a Sunday morning for us here in Toronto to just open the game, watch some clean hitting.
No, no, exactly, exactly. And he did get some support from Sanju Samson early on. Again, early dismissal from Samson's side, but Abhishek Sharma was more than capable of hitting it himself. And
Yeah.
Shivam Dubé, a solid 30 as well, and I think his strike rate was just around 200. I feel, and a solid approach from Shivam Dubé as well. And I think yeah, you're around the 250 mark in a T20 game these days. Oh, you really have to. The opposition really has to exploit the power play. We've talked about this
Yeah.
in previous pods, and
Yeah.
you can sometimes tell during the power play if it's going to be a chaseable total or not. And I think unfortunately we realized it wasn't going to be.
Yeah, yeah. And before we get into England innings, I want to talk about one black mark in India's batting lineup. Surya Kumar Yadav, Sky, La Capitan. What's going on? What's going on? You don't see a series, a five-match series go by without him at least scoring a 50. I don't think, even reached 20 in the series, from what I recall.
No, no, I think he's been in the single digits all 5 innings. And is it a time for worry? I think not. I think the setup's fine for him to sort of be under the radar. We know how of a destructive player he is. And I think from an international perspective, I don't think there's not too many T20s coming up to really worry about. He has the IPL now to really focus on and maybe hopefully regain his form. We did miss the Sky Show, and maybe no one wants to acknowledge it because some of the other batters were able to pick it up. But it is something that I really hope he's able to figure out because the T20 format goes by very quick, and there's a lot of players ready to go.
Yeah, and especially with him being captain, it's added pressure. Like he's got
Exactly.
to deliver at some point, otherwise, they're not only going to question his place in the team, but his captaincy, whether he should continue as captain when there's other people performing and being so consistent.
Yeah, yeah. I guess India's captaincy hasn't gotten off to a great 2025 start.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully that gets better. Well, okay, so let's dive into England's chase now. Chasing 248, as you said, when you have a big target like that to chase, you have to have a strong start, a great power play, which England did not have. They were good with the run rate, all thanks to one man, Phil Salt. He had a hell of an innings, finally came to the party. 55, 23 balls, striker of 239. But just the fall of wickets just didn't help. They lost 3 wickets inside the power play and then a fourth wicket first ball after the power play. And you felt like, again, with England being four down in the seventh over and then losing Phil Salt in the very next over, you felt like that's it. That's game done. It's a game, set, match, series, everything.
Exactly, exactly. There's a quick wrap up from there on out in the power play itself. And I think that the decisive blow was that Phil Salt wicket. He was looking destructive. And it was interesting who took his wicket. Tehran, any thoughts on that wicket taker?
That was so funny. So we have KP on air again. Shivam Dubey with the ball. Shivam Dubey runs in. What does he do? First ball, Phil saw Nick caught behind, and
Seven
KP
stump outswinger. Seven stump outswinger.
seven stump line.
120,
With a,
121, 121, 121 Ks.
yeah, not even. It was like 117, 117, 18 clicks. And KP's just like having a laugh after. It's like he couldn't believe what was happening. Neither could the England management. The camera panned to them. It was nice to see Joe Root in there, and they were all just smiling and laughing. It's like, oh my god, of course he comes on and takes a wicket first ball, nullifies everything they said about him being a like for like, about Harshad Rana being a not being a like for like replacement. Because Sharon Duve definitely just said, "What are you talking about? I just got a wicket."
No, literally, he vindicated the entire controversy that went on. I think these full circle moments happen a lot in cricket. It's just one of those games where
Yeah,
the same commentator would be on comms, or it'd be the same matchup at the right amount at the right time. I love these moments, and it was funny to see. And I think he did end up with 2 wickets in total, which Shivam Dubey would argue that he is a good bowler. Potentially he is like for like when it comes to Harsha Rana. But no, it's funny scenes. And speaking of a wicket taker, it's nice to see Shami as well back in the picture. 3 wickets.
yeah. I was just gonna say, yeah, he had a good night out. Although two of those wickets for the tail, but that's part of his role to be able to clean up the tail, which he did. And yeah, it was a good night out. Didn't get a good start. Phil Salt took him to the cleaners first three balls, 4-4-6. That got
Yes.
me going. I was like, okay, we might see a fight, but it kind of fizzled out after. But it was good from Shami to come back from that because he was already 14 runs from his first three balls, and to come back and take three wickets from there, give only another 11 runs was pretty good to see.
No, no, exactly, exactly. And I think, as we approach more the white ball, the 50 over series coming up, as well as the Champions Trophy coming up, you do want to see Mohammad Shami gain a little more confidence going in. That was nice to see him as part of the wicket taking list today. And I know we talked a lot about Abhishek Sharma's batting, but it would be a disservice if you don't mention his wickets as well. A few wickets in one over. Is he an all rounder too?
Yeah, I think he would be a like for like replacement for any one of our spinners. That's for sure. Yeah, it was a great day out. I mean, when it's your day, it's your day, right? First ball wicket, then takes another wicket in the over. I guess life's that easy for Abhishek Sharma right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, exactly. And sometimes, when you have that sort of innings, it's like a tide, rises everyone with you, so some great bowling performances. And I think, yeah, all in all, nice wrap up to the series as well. I think India was the um the better team throughout all five games.
Yeah, yeah, great segue into the series review. I mean, if you look across the entire series, India dominated majority of it. There were moments where England had their moments, but they weren't able to take full advantage of that or grab the game by the scruff of the neck, if you will. India seemed to win those 50-50 moments more than England, and they ended up with the scoreline that we predicted, 4-1.
Yeah, exactly. I think a big part of this series was like match winners, right? For example, this game you had
Yeah,
Abhishek Sharma. Few of the other games earlier on, it was Varun Chakravarty.
yeah.
And then, you
Hardik
just need
Pandya.
those Hardik Pandya, for instance. So you just needed some of those players to really grab the game by the reins. And perhaps England was a little timid and missing in that. I know they've had. I think Overton had a really good game a few games back, but they were just missing some of those. Maybe from a batting perspective, there's some of those players who were just really able to take the game on.
Yeah, I think the biggest miss for them would be their openers, Phil Salt and Ben
Mhm.
Duckett. Ben Duckett looked $1 million in a lot of those games, but he wasn't able to kick on. He had a couple of these which are good starts, but if you want to challenge this Indian team with this kind of a lineup that they have, you have to be able to kick on and make those big scores. And I think that's what let England down. Because you would, if you think about the series, you can almost always put your finger on England being two, three, four down in the first 10 overs. That was the case in almost every single game. And that just you can't just win games consistently losing three, four of your top batsmen within the first 10 overs of a T20I. That leaves too much to your middle and lower order. And I think that's what, you know, caused Liam Livingston to not have that much of an impact because I felt like he was just coming too early. He was just coming on too early. He was coming on when the spinners were wreaking havoc, and I mean, he can play spin, but he's not the best as someone like maybe a Butler or even a Ben Duckett. And so you needed someone like a Duckett playing those middle overs because he's a better player against spinners, and maybe have a Liam Livingston coming in the last 7, 8 overs where he could really take down the faster bowlers coming in at the debt. But that didn't happen. And even today I thought Liam Livingston would show up, but he didn't because he was out in the middle too early.
Yeah, I think that's a great point you mentioned about how a lot of the emphasis, and I think rightfully so, should be on the performance of England's openers. And when you score those 30 odd with a couple wickets down, you are sort of relying on the other 10 batters to hit, 25, 30 run scores. Sometimes those are big things to do. You did mention about the first few overs are so important, especially from a field restrictions perspective. You're really supposed to cash out as much as you can during the power play, but when you get those wickets down, and we always bring this up, and I think it's a big factor in not only Test cricket but in all forms of cricket. It's those momentum shifts. You get those two
Yeah.
quick wickets in the power play, then all of a sudden it's, oh, okay. It's like the bowlers are on top now. Let's look at the field settings, right? Let's tighten our lines up, And then I think that's like a very important phase of the game where India was able to sort of pick up sometimes, pick up some of the other wickets when the spinners would come in. So it's like sort of those phases which are important. And as you mentioned, England just wasn't able to really dominate in those phases, those 50-50 phases, or those phases that require someone to really pick the game up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And from India's point of view, I felt like their bowling was just too strong for England, especially their spin attack. England obviously would prefer playing the faster bowlers, which is why India went with the route of playing more spin, and vice versa. India would prefer playing spinners, and England went
Mm,
with the route of pace, right? But clearly, England found it harder playing India's spinners than India's batters found playing the pace, which is essentially what was the turning point, or was the reason why India were able to be ahead in the series, because whenever the spinners came on, wickets fell. And
yeah,
you either had Harry Brook not able to play because he couldn't see in the smog, or you had Chakravarty coming in and just wreaking havoc from ball one.
that's true. That's true. It was constant back to back tricks from India, and just the very nature of our spinners. You have as you mentioned, acts are a little bit different. Varun Chakravarty, the mystery spinner, wearing long sleeves, which adds a little bit of more mystique, and then you have Bishnu as well, right? And then he's a handful of times. So yeah, India had a lot of options, and to your point, I think that was that difference. Just India was able to play the fast bowls a little bit better than England was able to play the spinners.
Yeah, yeah, and then you can say home advantage and it knows the grounds better. But I think with the IPL, that's less and less of an excuse now, because a lot of these English players, if you look through the lineup, they all have IPL teams, maybe barring one
Yep.
or two of them. I understand some of them are new to playing in India. Maybe Harry Brook is still learning his game, his craft, and playing in Indian conditions. Jacob
Mhm.
Bethel's first goal in India, he was also injured for a couple of games, so can't really blame them. But some of the more experienced guys, like a Phil Salt, like a Joss Butler, he had a couple of good games, but again, you needed more out of him. And even Ben Duckett, been here before. They should have been able to do better from the batting front. And I think that's what let them down, because it put too much pressure on the bowlers to be able to
Yeah, no,
restrict
no.
the Indian batting lineup, especially in those first three games where India batted first. Sorry, England batted
Second.
first in those first
Yeah.
three games. Sorry, India were chasing. And so England needed to put big, large targets on, which they weren't able to do. And they happened to be able to win that third game, but that wasn't to be in the first and second game. They just didn't have enough on the board.
Yeah, no, no, I completely agree with that take. And now, I guess, obviously, we're sticking with India versus England, the other white ball series, the 50 over series. Are you expecting a sort of similar domination from the 50 over perspective?
I think we might see more of a challenge from
Hmm.
England, because it's different play. I believe there's going to be some different players, some world class coming into England's lineup.
Yep.
In Joe Root as an example. Also on India's front, Virat Kohli is coming back, Rohit Sharma's coming back, Shreyas Iyer's coming back, Rishabh Pant's coming back. So it's going to be almost different teams,
I agree. I agree.
which changes the dynamic. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that series goes.
Yeah, and I think I would argue there may be a little bit more of added pressure on India. A lot of these players are coming back from playing domestic, not the best scores.
Yeah.
A lot of their age is being questioned. A lot of the new age players are getting questioned. You have Champions Trophy around the corner. So I think there's going to be, questions all around the series, and there's going to be added pressure. And so I think from a viewing standpoint, I think, that would lead to some good viewing, because I think it would be nice to see some of the players able to, break their shackles and really show, what they're truly made of. Because I do think, the squads for, at least from an India perspective, is very strong. 50 overs, as you mentioned, Shreyas Iyer, KL Rahul, Rishabh Pant, Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma. They have a lot of proof. They're players that we grew up watching, and so you just want them to do great.
Yeah, yeah. It feels like India went with a squad similar to what they took to the T23 World Cup, the 50 over World
Yeah,
Cup, the squad that reached the final. I'm not gonna talk more about that final, but anyways, they took a silver squad there. I think the key missing man is probably Mohammad Siraj, who's not in the team, but everyone else is pretty much more or less the same. They added Arshdeep to the squad, which I think is interesting. I think it's well deserved. I think I
hundred
think he did
percent.
really well in the one day format.
100%. He brings that left arm option as well, so it'll be
Yeah,
exciting to see. And then, as we mentioned, you got Champions Trophy as well. Another ICC tournament. I feel like there's
yeah,
one every year, right?
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see their approach that tournament through this series.
Yeah, for sure. And so just to quickly wrap up this T20I series, what we always like doing is who was your player of the series? So I'll let you go first, or if you want, I can go first with my player of the series.
I'll let you go first. I'll let you take this
All
one.
right. All right. So I'll go. So from India, I think this one's obvious, maybe not. Varun Chakravarty for me. I think he was the key man. Whenever he came on, you always felt there was a wicket around the corner. You always felt like England had no clue playing against him, especially someone like Harry Brooks, someone like Jamie Overton, just no clue whatsoever. And without him, I think the series would have been much different. So he's my ex player of the series, I should say, from India. From England, hard to say when you lose a series 4-1. However, I did like Bryden Cars. I mean, I've liked him since the Test match series when they played in Pakistan. He is a solid player that England have found, and I think he's an all format player. He can play. He can bowl in any situation from the looks of it. Usually comes first change, but I think he can open the bowling. He seems to be a good middle overs bowlers, has something in the depth as well. And he was a standout bowler today too. He took 3 wickets. He got carded a bit at the end, but his figures were pretty good. His last over, he gave a lot of runs, but his figures in the context of the game, 3 for 38, great figures for from his point of view. So I thought he was England's player of the series for me.
No, two great selections there, and for I guess for my answers, I'll start from India as well. And I was oscillating between Varun Chakravarty and Abhishek Sharma, and I know his standout innings was obviously the last match, but I would say throughout the series, barring one or two maybe innings, he's had good starts. And Sanju Samson was not it this series, and Abhishek Sharma really had to step up, or basically just keep his form throughout the other matches, and so I think he was able to make some decent scores here and there. But no, I think if I were to pick one, it would be Varun Chakravarty. He was that option for Sky to really pick up wickets, and it did seem like the England players throughout the series were just not able to pick him up. And so yeah, I think from an India perspective, it would be Varun Chakravarty, and I'm glad to see him back in action in the blue. So no, great to see. And then from England's perspective as well, yeah, I think you can't take any away from Carr's incredible bowling across all phases of the game. But one thing I did want to give a shout out to, and I know obviously barring one or two innings, I think Butler played great. I think as a captain and as a batsman as well throughout the series, he had to really step up, especially as we mentioned with the opening batsmen not performing as best as they wanted to throughout the series. So I think Butler was able to sort of sometimes pick that up, and it shows how he's still a great option for Team England in the T20I series. Sorry, in the T20I.
Yeah, yeah, and just another quick point on Brian Cars. He did so well and impressed so much that he came up the order over Jamie Overton. I thought it was a one game thing, but he even came up the order today as well. And so it just shows how much he's impressed the England management to give him the confidence to bat higher up as well. And there was one game where he hit the ball clean, and that's what gave England a shot at even defending the target. Was his innings. So yeah, great performances from him. And overall, England obviously needed to do more, but at least they found some silver linings. And also like your comments on Butler too. I think he played well for sure in a few of the games.
Yeah, no, sounds great. And I think overall exciting series. I think it lived up to its hype. I think maybe we would have preferred a little bit more competitive series, but I think I called 4-1. Was that right? The series? I
Yeah,
think I called
yeah,
it.
yeah. You got it. You got it spot on 4-1. I was being a little more, I guess, nicer, if you will, to England.
Yeah.
But
Fair
3-2
enough.
didn't happen. I wanted my 2-2 and a series decider. That didn't happen. Imagine this being a series decider and Abhishek Sharma playing that inning.
Oh, I agree. It would have been a lot more sweeter. 100
Yeah,
million percent.
for sure, for sure. So, well, yeah, you got it this time, 4-1. Well, that's about it for this T20I series. We'll catch you on the ODI series that's coming up next. India versus England again, 3 ODI game. I know it's ODIs. I know it's not the most interesting format these days, but it's still cricket and it's still going to be exciting. And we look forward to that. So, We'll see you then. That's it for today. That's Stumps. Don't forget to like and subscribe.